Before I start this video, just wanted to point out that Roger Wardell currently has a perfect track record with MCU leaks, has tweeted out that Marvel Studios are a big fan of David Morrissey and are considering multiple roles for him for Phase 4. So obviously David Morrissey played the Governor back on The Walking Dead, and he was definitely praised for his acting in that show and has been praised for other roles he's played before in the past. So the current rumor is that he may be going up as Norman Osborn going forward in the MCU, which to me would be a pretty interesting choice to see him eventually become the Green Goblin. But leave all your thoughts on that down below in the comments and enjoy the rest of the video. Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and lots of people are pretty upset over in the Marvel community right now since Grace Randolph, a content creator on YouTube, tweeted out that hashtag Oscorp is coming to the MCU like next month. And she then responded to that by saying, by the way, there's some misinformation out there. I did not personally see Spider-Man Far From Home, but have a source who did, which is where this information comes from, and I stand by this tea. So no matter who saw it, whether it be her or her source, it is not cool to tweet out spoilers like that. And once again, on the Marvel Hub Twitter, we always warn people before ever tweeting anything spoiler related, and we honestly don't even tweet anything spoiler related. We usually link a video which may contain spoilers, but we specifically say in the tweet or the title of the video, do not watch this if you do not want to hear spoilers for whatever movie it is, let it be Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, or any other Marvel project. We know people do not like spoilers sometimes. We know there are people who like spoilers and there are people who do enjoy spoiling the movie before seeing it for themselves in a cinema, but personally, we wouldn't want to make the decision for you, so we always warn people before providing spoilers. So with this tweet now, even though she didn't specifically see the movie, she saw a leak that we also covered not too long ago regarding Norman Osborn making his debut here in Spider-Man Far From Home. But it's not exactly a debut where we could see who was casted as Norman Osborn, but there is a post-credit scene where all of the villains from Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home band together thanks to one man, and that one man is sort of seen in the shadows, but we know for a fact he's Norman Osborn since this meeting between all the villains takes place in the new Oscorp Tower, which was being built where Stark Tower used to be, or the original Avengers Tower. So it's a pretty cool plot point that a lot of people predicted all the way back in Spider-Man Homecoming. So maybe, just maybe, depending on how well Spider-Man Homecoming did in theaters, would have determined whether or not Sony would be down to let Marvel use Norman Osborn in a future MCU film. But what better time to use Norman Osborn than after the sacrifice from Iron Man or Tony Stark? So you then have Norman Osborn coming into the mix saying that he could be the next Iron Man, he could be the next entrepreneur, the next Tony Stark that could bring the world back to what it's supposed to be. So think of this massive dictator-like personality that Norman Osborn could have. And before even jumping into any Green Goblin territory, you can really establish Norman Osborn as a really sinister villain like he is in the Dark Reign comics, where he really isn't the Green Goblin too much, but instead accomplishes his goal just as Norman Osborn, just as a pretty big supervillain. So on top of that, a lot of people out there are theorizing that because Peter looked up to Tony as his mentor, there could easily be a plot point in the future where Peter gives Norman Osborn a chance. He looks at him and says, you know what, that's a nice thing he's doing, trying to be the next Tony Stark, using his money for the greater good, rebuilding the world and helping everybody get back to their original state, since obviously 5 years have passed since the snap, the world is in shambles, and so many bad things have happened since. But Peter could look up to him and then all of a sudden at some point starts to realize what he's actually up to and will then feel betrayed by Norman Osborn, and then there could be a little plot point where Peter sort of starts investigating Norman, in which lots of people around him like Nick Fury, Aunt May, and so many other people around him sort of question his actions, sort of question why Peter could possibly be looking into Norman Osborn as a possible suspect for crime. And there could be an easy plot point in the movie where all of a sudden everybody doubts Peter, but then out of nowhere here comes Norman Osborn with the Sinister Six, sort of leading the group, not necessarily being the Green Goblin, but just leading the group. So that would be a crazy plot point. You can have Norman Osborn wearing the Iron Patriot armor like in the comics to really mess with Peter's head, to show him that Iron Man armor in use again. You could then see Norman become the Green Goblin way later down in the MCU. I think a lot of Marvel movies out there that have portrayed Norman in some way have never never really portrayed Norman as the sinister villain that he really is. Without all the Green Goblin, without the armor, without the glider, just the villain, just the man himself. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Marvel to really tackle that storyline that only a few comics have really explored. And then if we really go even deeper than that, if Norman Osborn is going to be a villain to stay for the next 2, maybe even 3 phases, you could easily jump into some Dark Reign, Dark Avengers storyline stuff, which to me would be the perfect opportunity. Once again, Norman Osborn will be coming in, trying to fill Tony's shoes, win the world's respect, and essentially be the next Iron Man by maybe whipping out that Iron Patriot armor, but then secretly has the Sinister Six right up his sleeve to take down Spider-Man, and then eventually we could see him turn into the Green Goblin. So they could do just about anything with Norman, but once again, it's not cool that Grace tweeted that out because there are people out there who didn't see the leak we reported on just a couple of weeks ago about Norman Osborn appearing in the post-credit scene for Spider-Man Far From Home. So for those of you who are spoiled by that tweet, maybe it's not real. Take it with a grain of salt. Nothing was confirmed, even if it's a reliable source or not, but without doubt, the Oscorp Tower in place of the OG Avengers Tower would correlate with a lot of popular fan theories that came out during Spider-Man Homecoming when Tony was selling the original Avengers Tower. So let me know what you think of all this down below in the comment section. This has been DK Dynamite. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn notifications on to stay up to date with latest and greatest Marvel news and information, and peace out, everyone.